What's up, everybody? It's me. Ironically, I say that, and yet no one actually knows who I am. So, I just wanted to get on here, not real fast, and explain a few things. This is going to be the story of how I got into drag racing and also how I found God through drag racing. So we'll start with a brief breakdown of my personal history. I'm one of 8 in a not poor family, but we didn't really have. Let me explain it to you. If there was an extra piece of bacon, it was a fight to get it. If there was Pop Tarts in the pantry, you grabbed one, shoved it under your bed because they were going to be gone in 15 minutes. So it was like you did what you did to get your treat because it was going to be gone real quick. Um, my father is still alive. Not like he's gone or anything, but he was a Marine. He was very and is very to the point. Do what I say because I said to do it. We grew up in church. We grew up with a lot of people, and honestly, I didn't fit in. I was homeschooled up until ninth grade. Hated it. Hated every second of it. I wanted to go to public school very early on. And it was a very big struggle to finally get into public school in ninth grade, which would have been my actual 10th grade year. Anyways, so I was interested in dirt bikes early on. I was interested in all sorts of things. I watched TV shows like Jesse James. What was his show? Monster Garage. I watched stuff like American Chopper, Stacy David's Gears, stuff like that. So early 90s kid, I guess you can do the math. I'm 30, I'll be 34 in April. Um, so that's kind of where I got a lot of my ideas and stuff. I was interested in dirt bikes. Dad said, nope, you might hit a rock and you're dead. So it was like he didn't want me to have anything like that. So I devised a way to get my dirt bike that I wanted, a YZ80. I think it was a 1989, 88 model, YZ80. Olin got it for me, him and his dad. Brought it straight to the house. I gave him $600. And it was a pile. I'm talking about this thing blew up every maybe 7, 8 ride hours. I had enough money to buy a new piston kit so I could redo the piston and rings and stuff like that, the wrist pin and all that, but I didn't have enough money to get the cylinder nickel plated, Nixil or whatever it is. So I was constantly working on this thing. It was the most fun I've ever had and most frustrating. I think I pushed that thing probably miles because it would just randomly lock up going down the highway because I rode it everywhere. Anyways, so I had a lot of mechanical inclinations from a very young age. Constantly rebuilding dirt bikes. I even built a dirt bike transmission from a pile of parts. Well, I bought a 95 YZ125 literally in a box and I put the whole thing together. First time I cranked it up, it was wide open throttle. I went for a spin after that and the wrist pin let go because I didn't change the wrist pin. So it was always something. So let's see, I'm getting a little bit in the weeds here, I believe. So let's get a little bit back down to the basics. So I had a lot of opportunity, or I had a lot of raw skill that just happened. A lot of talent that was very untuned. I didn't have a lot of direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But it turned out that I got into cars probably because of my Uncle Jimmy. He had a 240Z. Remember that car because he brought it to like our family events and stuff. It was pretty well known that he really loved those cars, so I kind of got into those cars as well. So let's see. How it started was, I guess, I started watching Street Outlaws at some point, and I started getting interested. And I thought, man, if I can just get like 500 horsepower, I'd be like the king of the streets. I had no idea about nothing. I had done, let me think, I had done L28 swapping a 240, I put a cam in it, headers, like all this junk. I didn't even lash the valves after I put a new cam in. And I was like, man, this thing sounds awful like a sewing machine, like in a bad way. I had no idea. And then I later on did like a 302 swap in that. Had a lot of fun. I built a couple other small things before I actually got into the original 240 build. I had like a Nissan hardbody D21. I think that was the first actual vehicle that I brought to the drag strip just because I knew I had to get some sort of experience. So let's rein this back in a little bit. The very first thing I did was Colby and we went to Lights Out 16. Or was it 17? 17?
That's the one you did in your car.
Oh, Lights Out 8. Yeah. Golly, a long time ago-ish. So we went to that race, and I think at that time, I was aware of like Tim McAmis and some of those guys, like Stevie Fast. Um, I don't know when I started following like Freiberger or becoming aware of them as far as any of that, but my first experience was Radio versus the World. And I think I was just like, I have to build pretty much a pro mod. So the first thing that I did whenever I got some money, and I believe I sold a truck to my brother, which turned out to be way more work than he was willing to put into it. But anyways, I got a McAmis chassis. It was an RX-7 chassis kit. I said I need a custom main hoop made because they didn't have a chassis kit for a 240Z. So I had them make a few custom tubes so I could make that chassis work in the 240Z. The RX-7, like the 90s RX-7, is almost identical chassis-wise to a 240Z. They're almost exactly the same car. In fact, if you look at the manuals for them, as far as like catalogs, they're like side by side, at least the ones that I looked at. So I started working on that, and I honestly had no idea what I was doing. Most of the stuff was I just watched. I'm not sure who I watched originally. Like I watched McAmis, like his chassis stuff. I watched Street Outlaws for like motivation, and I started getting into some YouTube stuff. I can't remember the first people I started watching, if I'm being 100% honest. But then shortly after that, and I can't remember, I think it was 2018, mom and dad had a van. It was a 3500 Express van, 4L80E, Vortec 350. It's a small block Chevrolet, but it had the single piece rear main seal, and it had a few other things, like the pistons were a little bit better. There's still hyper eutectic and stuff like that, powder metal rods, I think, but it's a lot better platform than a small block Chevrolet, like an actual small block, you know. So I built that, my intention was to build that, and I bought all these parts. I bought these like high dome pistons that would have been like 14 or 15 to 1. I wasn't even aware. I ordered the wrong rod length, and whenever I got the stuff in, I realized this isn't going to work. Literally had pistons rolling around in the back of my truck, piston rods, that I literally cleaned them up, took them out of the back of the truck, put them back in this engine. I can't remember. I think I re-ringed it. I'm not sure. I don't think I put any ring gap in it, but stock pistons, stock rods. I think I put new bearings in it, stock crank. I put an oil pump in it, and I put a cam in it, and I put a set of, I want to say, trick flow heads on it. Yeah. And then I rebuilt that 4L80E. I put a valve body in it, a manual valve body. Had never taken transmission apart before in my life. Put a valve body in it, and I don't think I did any modifications to like any of the like dual feed or I don't think I added any frictions. I think the intermediate clutch pack, I think he added like springs for the quick release or something like that to have a quicker release, but it was pretty much a stock transmission with a valve body. So literally get to the track, and I think the first time I went, I can't remember if Colby was there or not. I think he was, but literally get there, tech in, go to the line, stage with my back tire. Yeah. And then I back it up, the starting line guy's like, what are you doing, man? It's like, I don't know. It's literally the first time. I'm just thinking this. I didn't say any of this. Literally the first time I ever set foot on a drag strip at all. Stage with my back tire, backed up, blah, blah, blah. Went to make a pass. Nothing happened. It just like bleh, died. And then I went back again. Same thing. Couldn't even get past the burnout. Went to try to stage. Wouldn't even stage. Couldn't get it up. What the heck? Ended up being that I had my feed line. I had a, what is it, the Aeromotive A1000 pump with like a -4 line coming out of that pump. I think it was like, it might have been a -6, but like you need like A1000, you need like a -10 at least. Like I just killed this pump because I had no idea what I was doing. I put a smaller pump on it, and I think that pump is still an Aeromotive, or they threw it away, whatever. I sent it in, never got it back because I don't know. Maybe I was embarrassed, whatever. But anyways, I got a smaller pump to put on it, like a, whatever it was, just like a 3 gallon an hour or a 3 gallon a minute pump, something like that, something pretty small. But anyways, I ended up making a few passes, and I'm not 100% sure. I think technically it ran a 9.8 according to the timing system at Commerce Atlanta Dragway, but I think it was actually a 10.8 if the incrementals, like now that I look at it, I think it was more like a 10.8 just because something doesn't make sense. But anyways, after that, I got a little bit of some confidence on, like, I went out there and made a pass and realized, hey, this is going to be fun. This is actually how you do it. So next was I finished the 240. I took that same engine, small block Chevrolet, put it in there. I ran the 4L80E. At that point, I think I did put clutches in it or something. I got a Jake's Transmissions kit where it had the billet 300M input and output. It had the one piece lip seals, some other dual feed mods and stuff like that. Same valve body. And I went out there. The first time I brought it out there, and Colby was with me on this one, we literally teched in and never made a pass. And I'm thankful we didn't because the brakes didn't work. I was just trying to get out of there. All I wanted to do was just get the car out there, but I couldn't stop the vehicle. So if I had actually made a pass, I would have went into the traps. Like I wouldn't have been able to do anything. So the next time we went back, and this is all at Atlanta Dragway, about an hour and 10 from the house. So I finally got back out there and I was able to make a pass, and I was terrified. It wasn't that fast. It was maybe like an 11 or something. Might have been a 10. It scared me so bad that I was like, I can't do this. Just a little backstory. I am terrified of heights. Still am. I hate roller coasters. I will ride them every now and again because Caitlin loves them. I cannot stand this stuff. And I got in this car, and I can't remember what it ran. It might have been like a high 10, low 11. But I thought, I can't do this. And then at some point, I just said, no, you're doing this. And then I was on the return road, and my freaking wheel fell off. I didn't tighten my lug nuts enough. Like, I don't know. It just happened. I thought, holy crap, man, this whole thing just fell apart. Like, what the heck is going on? I don't remember what Colby said, but I just remember that distinctly. And it messed up the quarter panel. Like, it was on a 2810.5. Flopped out the bottom, messed up the whole quarter panel. I was like, oh man, I'm just giving up, whatever. But I didn't. I kept going. So I think it might have been an 11 because later I put nitrous on it and ended up running like a 9 something. And then I was like, I want to do turbos. So I got 2 diesel turbos off a 7.3 Power Stroke, stock turbos, stock Amazon turbos. Low slung them like an actual pro mod because that's all I ever saw was pro mod stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna be a little pro modder. Little 66 or 60 millimeter turbo slung down low like 1320. Took some photos of it. I had never even been in competition. I took it to what was it, Streetcar Takeover, and I was like all proud of it. Like it's the first time we got photos. It was actually Scott Whitty took some photos, like Colby on the couch sleeping, and us because we slept at the track. Like that's what we did. It was like me and Colby, David Asian would come, call him Asian. Todd and his wife came over once or twice. A couple other people, like Fabian was there, maybe a little later on. But it was a good little group. Like we had a lot of fun. We didn't really know what in the heck we were doing. I was just there pretty much. But I ended up running that setup with a Phytech throttle body injection TBI 790 something. Literally had no idea what I was doing. Just a fluke, honestly. I put like an ultra aggressive boost ramp in this thing because I didn't even know how to tune it. And it just went. We're in a 790 something like 168 or 170, something like that. So I was almost instantly faster than everybody that I had ever talked to, like besides people that I had seen on YouTube and TV and stuff. And I still had no idea what I was doing. Um, that was, I don't think that was with the 4L80 though. I think at that point I'd already switched to a Power Glide. And I think I glossed over the fact that I also built a Dart 350, well, 420, 421 or 414, 420, whatever. So I ended up running like an 880 or something with the small block Chevrolet, the stock internal one. We were like all proud of it. Sent 1320 a message because we thought it was like the fastest one ever. Literally had no idea about any of this stuff. I sent the message. Colby was backing me up because we had no idea. We were just all gung ho and excited about it. And when was it? 2018, I think, is when I started building, or 2019 is when I finally got the Dart 350 based engine. It could have been really good if I had some actual knowledge. The thing with me is I have no formal education. I didn't have any friends that really knew anything as far as like how to build stuff. We were all just kids essentially. I was the most intelligent, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to anybody. I grew up with people that thought that you can't solid mount an engine because it would beat the bearings out. Same thought process as you put 93 in high octane means like, oh, that fuel is going to make the thing faster. It's like not how hydraulics works, and that's not how detonation works. I mean, anyways, so I was very handicapped, I guess I would say, and also had a lot of social anxiety and stuff. I was very careful who I listened to. Very, very intent on trying to find the right people to listen to. And I didn't find anybody in person to listen to, so I went straight to YouTube. That's where I found people like, probably most notable would be like Steve Morris, chassis people. I can't really remember, like Ron, I can't remember his name, had a good video on chassis stuff. I watched a lot of the McAmis stuff. I watched a lot of Devin stuff later on for wiring. Like people that I saw as like ultra professional. Like they've got their stuff down, they know what they're doing. So, but anyways, I built this engine and it was a good platform. It was a small block Chevrolet based Dart, little M block. Had a custom cam from, I can't remember who it was from, Crowder maybe? Somebody like that. One of the big cam manufacturers. It had, golly, what were the rods? I can't even remember. They were just some middle ground H-beam rods. They were okay. I had custom Ross pistons made. It had a Jessel belt drive on it. Well, actually, I think it was the other, not Jessel brand. Um, some good stuff like a Dart Pro One heads or something like that. Anyways, like the good rocker system from Jessel. The cam in it was, I guess it was pretty good. I can't remember, but the spring pressure. This is where I messed up really bad and didn't realize. This cam had at before peak lift over 1,000 pounds open and over 400 pounds on the seat. And this was just some stock, some stainless steel valves. Like there wasn't titanium, nothing. There was a ton of spring pressure. Because I talked to this guy on the phone that was like this big cam guru or whatever, and he was making all these calculations on how much spring pressure you would have to have in order to run 30 pounds of boost. So I was like, I gotta have so much spring pressure, like scientific on this stuff, and it really messed me up. Where am I even at on this? Anyways, the process, yeah, all this stuff was like really good parts. I had a Dominator in the car. I switched to EFI, Holley EFI Dominator. I had a Pro 600 ignition system. Like I was trying to do this stuff right. And every time we took this thing out, it was almost a catastrophe. The chassis was pretty much a Pro Mod. I mean, Pro Mod's a class, obviously, but I set it up off of a McAmis chassis drawing. Parallel 4-link, 20-inch bar, whatever it was. I was on a 315 at that time because I could not get the thing to launch. It would launch, I'd have a good launch, and then go like up crazy, like popping wheelies everywhere, spinning everywhere. Just couldn't get anything right. I mean, I had some fun with it. I mean, me and Colby did stuff like that early on. But ultimately, I still had no idea what I was doing. I went fast once or twice. We never actually did any real racing. Uh, we just test. Like, we were like ultimate testers. Like, we got there all day, some days, and made one pass just testing, literally, because everything went wrong. Anyway, so that was kind of what me and Colby were used to very early on, was just kind of having fun, doing whatever, trying to make this little BlytheLife brand, which is just a rip off of a guy that wanted to make this film about me for some reason at welding school in Florida. He called it BlytheLife. So I thought it was cool, and I ended up taking it. I can't remember the guy's name, so if you're watching this, thank you, sir. Sorry I stole it, but it is my last name. But anyways, so we were kind of doing some racing stuff, just fooling around, really. And I was not living right at the time. I was, cussing, I was drinking, I was doing whatever I could to hook up with girls and stuff. Like, not living right. Just plain and simple. I had some good friends that were not the best influence. We had a good time, but definitely not living correct as far as biblically what Christ wanted. Then we frequented a bar in Dahlonega. Kind of just, we went there usually on the weekends. Like every other weekend we get there. Like I think one time Colby didn't want to go, but I was like, oh, I kind of want to go. And I'm sitting over there, Colby's over there, and then I see somebody that I knew from my past, went to high school with her. She was a senior when I was a freshman, and I knew her from church, talked to her once or twice. She doesn't remember talking to me, but I remember talking to her. She was like the cool girl. She was 16, had her car keys. I'm 16, I've got a car. Anyways, that's what I remember. Anyways, she was there, and I was like, hey, I know that person. So I was like, I'm going to go talk to her. And I was like, no, I'm not going to go talk to her. No. So, I mean, I had to have some liquid encouragement. Colby was like, go on and get over there. So I finally went over there, and you hear these stories, but what literally happened to me was the second I started talking to her, like the whole The whole world like went like nothing else was there besides us. It was pretty cool. So literally, at that point,
So sweet.
I could have married her at that point. I just could have. So I made a decision that I was going to change my whole life, essentially. I was pretty bad at just playing games and just getting what I wanted. But I made a decision and said, I wanted this, I know what I want, and I will do whatever it takes. So I quit texting whoever I was at the time and seeing whoever I was at the time. From that instant on, I never talked to. I think I apologized to somebody later on, but I just quit cold turkey everything that I felt that I was doing wrong. And I was like, I'm now devoted to this person that I've just met. And I forgot Colby was even there, literally, and that's never happened before. I'm not good at talking to people. I'm always like relying on him to kind of like be my ego for me or whatever. So that was definitely a change as far as the dynamics of I was always a one friend person, and it was kind of my friend changed, and that was a little bit sad for him, I'm sure, because everything changed after that point. Caitlin got involved in the race stuff and kind of pushed Colby out for sure. That happened, but it's kind of Colby really wanted me to build him a car, and I just couldn't do it. I know what he wanted because he's really smart, and I really liked him a lot, and I still do, but there's certain things that you just can't do for somebody. They have to do it for themselves. Like I can't. I did some stuff for him, like put a cage in a Mustang and did some other stuff, but never really went anywhere. I just couldn't do it for him. I just know how that would have turned out. So then over the next little while, we kind of didn't have a falling out per se, but it was definitely a slow decline. Some of it, admittedly, was on purpose. I wanted to be around certain people and I wanted good influence, and I knew I was susceptible to certain things around him and some of our other friends, so I cut ties. I did that on purpose. I don't regret it, but I think the way it happened was probably not right. I could have explained, like, I'm kind of strategically changing, and COVID happened during this time, so it was a really weird time where it was easy just to say, well, it's just because I don't have time. We can't hardly see each other anymore because, the virus and all that, whatever. And also, commerce shut down around that same time. So I just was like, well, pooey. We went to Carolina Dragway, and I started taking it a little bit seriously. And for real, the 240 started doing okay. Like, that car was a freaking tube chassis car. The thing should have been running like bottom sixes. Like, that thing was no joke. I did a few things wrong on it. That's why I struggled so much. We were at track. Commerce was not. It's a bracket racetrack. The base layer there is awful. Streetcar Takeover did their best to make it a good track, but the base layer is so bad there because they literally just run once a month almost as far as like actual events, and they tested street tires, radials, slicks, everything went down the same lanes. Like, it was when I went to Carolina Dragway, I was like, oh my gosh. At that time, I had a 3216 radial. I didn't even know they made those because I was just trying to get this thing to go down. Tires literally this fat, like giant, like 2810, something like this. This was how wide this Joker was, like steamroller, but still a radial. So whenever we got there, I made some decent passes. I had a power glide in it. I mean, the engine ran pretty good. The tune-up was so soft. Like looking back at it, I was so scared of timing. I think I had like 20 degrees in this thing at like 30 pounds. It's like, what are you doing? No joke. I ran like 20 something pounds of boost on it, like 22, 24 degrees of timing on a small block Chevrolet conventional head. Anyways, I had no idea. But we started making a little bit of power. I think finally ran like a 490 in it, like twice. Like it was starting to go good. So I was like, oh yeah, got some decent turbos on it, some S400 BorgWarners, 75 millimeters. And then, no. I had the 66 millimeters, the BorgWarner 66s, because those went on the Triumph later on. But this was all around the same time of the Triumph. So what ended up happening with that was I went over to Stevie Sheriff's house. He's the father of a buddy of mine in high school that I used to ride dirt bikes with, hang out with them quite a bit. He had a junkyard-ish in his backyard. He was a mechanic. Stevie Sheriff Auto Works, I think is what it was. Him and Tim Christian. Tim did the transmissions. Stevie did paint, body, you name it. So he always had a bunch of cool cars back there, and I was over there daily early in high school. But I went over there, when was it, 2019? 2018?
I think it was the end of 2019. You acquired it, did all the flooring and stuff.
Right,
And
so
then it sat for like
yeah.
2 years.
So I moved in with Caitlin almost instantly. Like I sold my house. Just kidding. I lived in a camper. Forgot that part. I lived in a camper over at my dad's house. Worked on the 240 out of his garage that I just straight up took over. He complained a little bit, but I think he's good with it now, right, Pops? Anyways, we had, man, this open trailer that I made from an old camper shell. Oh, we talk about, if you understood where I came from, you would be like, wow. Anyway, I could probably put in some photos of some cringeworthy stuff that I did back in the day. But yeah, so I moved in with Caitlin, and then the garage in here is small. For a single car garage, it's probably about as small as you can get. So I was like, I want something really small. So I went over there to Stevie's and I saw this little car back there. It was like a little convertible. I hate convertibles, but it looked kind of like a 240, like a tiny one. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. How much you want for this? He's like, I don't know, give me 500. So I gave him 500, brought it over here. I was like, man, at least I have something I can work on. And I did a little bit of work to it, like 2x3 steel, like A36, like mild steel stuff, 2x3 or 2x4 rectangle tube frame, like a nice little hot rod, type build. Sheet metal on the interior, left everything so ratty. And then I did all that and I just stopped. I was going to put a small block Chevrolet in it and kind of sat at the shop, or I brought it back here. And then at some point I really got into like Steve Morris's channel. I was aware of drag and drive, but I didn't really know what it was. Like I'd watched Roadkill and like Freiberger, I think it mentioned a few things somewhere along the lines. But I didn't know what it was. But anyway, somehow I got onto Tom Bailey's channel because, I think maybe some of that was like pro mod interest. Like I don't know how I got on his channel because at the time he really wasn't anything massive. Like there was no sick anything yet. He started talking about wanting to do this event, Sick Week, and well, I think it started out with Sick the Mag. And then I didn't get the first 2 issues, I think. But then whenever he said something about a drag and drive, I don't know why. I was sitting at home. I didn't have much work at the time. I was just watching YouTube all day. Like work is sporadic for me. I'm at work months at a time and then not work for a whole month or two. So it was one of those points where I was just sitting around doing nothing. And popped on YouTube and he was talking about it. So I was like, you know what? That'd be cool. I might try that. Filled out the expression of interest. I signed up for Sick the Mag because I thought they're not going to take me seriously unless I purchase their magazine. I'm not joking. I don't subscribe to nothing. I spend nothing except for stuff on cars. Like that was what my life was about. I saved every penny I could to spend on that 240. Literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. No joke. And I learned a lot and wasted a ton of money. But anyways, so I kind of forgot about it. We went on vacation to, what was it? Universal Studios. We were just sitting out by the pool. I was twiddling my thumbs, scrolling through my emails, and an email popped up. And at this point, I don't think it's going to hurt anybody's feelings. I got an email from, I don't remember if it was Tom or Luke or one of them. I didn't know any of them at the time. Saying, hey, don't tell anyone about this email. We're testing the system for people to register. So I was in before pretty much anyone, besides like Tom's friends and stuff like that. I knew that I was in very early on. And then I was like, oh man, I gotta do something. Like, what am I even gonna take? I wanted to do the 240, but I was like, there's no way. That thing would overheat in the staging lanes in more than 2 minutes of idling. Like, I couldn't get that thing to go nowhere. You want to grab him real quick?
Throw him away. Without knocking us over.
So literally at this point, I had built several little hot rods. They all had problems. I never built something and then it just worked. There was always problems. Breaking down on the side of the road, burning up automatic transmissions because I didn't realize that you had to put more fluid in it after the torque converter pulls the fluid in and stuff like that. I mean, I went straight to manual transmissions because you just put the fluid in and you go. So I had literally never had an experience where I built something and it just worked. But I had this, I don't know, overwhelming feeling that I just, almost like I had already done it. If I'm being honest about it, looking back, was like I had already done this. So there was like nothing, like almost like I wasn't even, it's a weird thing to explain, but it was like deja vu essentially. So I literally was like, I need an engine. I'm not going to worry about this 350 nonsense. I always heard good things about LSs. I knew nothing about them. So what I did was I ordered a junkyard LS off of eBay for like $500. Put a set of headers on it. I bought an engine management system. A Holly hooked it up. Thing ran. I didn't even tune it. I just used their base tune-up in there. I put a single 60 millimeter turbo on off a diesel truck. Literally fabricated the turbo kit in like 2 hours. Like this thing, I just hogged this thing together. I knew-ish what I was doing, but I had no intention. I put a rear end out of a D66, like the hard body or whatever it is, D24, whatever it is. Nissan rear end and a 6-lug. Got some wheels that would fit a 2810-5. Literally had no top on it. Like I just, the week before we left, I built a custom roof on it that's still on it today. Like nothing was planned. Like I just had this feeling like I've just got to do this, and I did it. At one point, I looked at the thing and I was like, I'm aware how ugly and stupid the thing is. I fully am aware. I don't like that car. I do now. I didn't like the car at the time. I didn't want to take it. I wanted to take the 240, but I was like, no, I've already done it. I'll see if I like it, and then we'll go back with the 240. I was almost to a point when I looked at it where I was like, I'm going to be laughed out of this place because I had drag raced before. I knew what was what. I've seen $100,000, $200,000 cars. I've been to Lights Out. I've seen pros. Like I knew what this thing was. It was a complete teetotal pile of crap, and it looked like the ugliest thing you'd ever seen. But I kind of, after that, was like, you know what? I'm just going to embrace it. And I was like, I know this thing is stupid, but whatever. If it works, it works. I went for one test drive, 5 miles. I was like, all right, that's good enough for me. Literally, we loaded it in the trailer. The fuel tank was leaking. I had to refix the seal on the tank because I was like, this thing can't leak. So we get to 6 week, and I remember I was there. We were there. We were just there. We were like, this is pretty crazy. The first person I interacted with was Tom Bailey. He came up to me, rolled up behind me in 1.0 or whatever. I guess it was 1.0 at the time, and said, "What's up?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I've seen these people. I'd never talked to anybody famous in my life. I think I did pretty good. Michael Narks was my first interview. And Jesse Fox caught on to me pretty quick, like instant friends with those guys. Tom, I don't know what he is. I'm not exactly friends, but he's fine, I guess. But a lot of people we met very early on, and then we started the process of the staging, or not the staging, the tech took forever. And I was surprised this thing just crunk up every time. I literally didn't do nothing. And then it was test time. I've drag raced at that point quite a bit. I probably had at least 100 passes under my belt, so I was no noob. But I had never been in front of people. I was so freaking nervous. I literally had tested so much. Is there a problem?
Your head's cut off because you're shifting so.
I had tested so much that when I got there, I staged up, double bulbed. The guy didn't come in. I was like, what the heck? Because he hadn't even done his burnout yet. I double bulbed. I was already up on the chip, like banging off the limiter. And then I just decided this guy's taking too long. I'm leaving. So I didn't get a slip that first pass. I was just like, holy crap, this thing literally went straight. It went kind of fast. I let out at the end. No idea what it ran. But then I was like, this might actually work. That was the first time I ever full throttled that car, the first time it had ever been on a drag strip ever. And I just straight up put it on the two-step and launched it like 4 pounds of boost with this little turbo. And it worked, okay? And I was like, at that point, I was like, okay, we can do this, I think. And then, oh, golly. At some point, I met Scott Keplinger, and I remember.
Who was the first one, I think?
Yeah, he was like one of the first ones we met. Yeah, and he looked at my fuel map, and I just remember his face just being like, "You drove this?" And I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm like, what's going on? He changed a few things. I don't know exactly what he did, but he changed a few things. Didn't really have any tuning knowledge. I didn't change the tune since then, so whatever you did, Scott, thanks. I think it helped out a lot. First day we got there, like first competition day, I staged up against this guy in was it Firebird? Made a pass, turns out it was David Freiberger. That was pretty cool. The T-Top Camaro.
Camaro is what.
So, literally the first pass beside somebody was David Freiberger filming Roadkill. I was like, that's pretty cool. And then we had the time of our life. That was, as far as any sick week is concerned, I don't care how fast I go. If I ever have a 5 average, whatever, I don't think it'll ever top the first year. Because we literally came in with zero expectations. We were like the redhead stepchildren. Nobody thought. I got talked to, what's his name? Mike Finnegan later. He's like, yeah, nobody thought y'all were going to finish. I was like, really? Yeah. Like, very surprised. Like, okay. That was years later. But anyways, we were just having a blast. We met David later at the gas station and found out like we raced each other. It was pretty cool. Went on and then woke up the next morning and we were like, not famous, but we were the cover photo on the first sick week ever. Day 0, that was me. And the ugliest thing you've ever seen in your life, making a pass. And we just had a great time. We left the track. Where did we start that year? Was it Bradenton? Bradenton. 2 seconds down the road, Smoke's coming out of the rear brakes. I had no brakes. I was like, well, this is not good. So I got out drum brakes. I had to fix the spring. It was the tensioner was too tight. That or I just omitted the rear brakes. I don't remember. I think we still had rear brakes. But anyways, instant problem. I took a ratchet strap because I didn't have a return spring on the pedal. Would just pull back on it when I needed to get more pedal and then push it again. I mean, obviously fixed it later once I got a spring, but minimal problems. Like, it was the easiest route ever as far as at the time we were battling overheating, but everything happened so perfectly. Like, there was nothing that happened that we weren't able to fix at some point. The turbos messed up. I had to get a buddy, Ethan Henson, brought me a turbo rebuild kit. Bobby came from the house because we met him at South Georgia. He brought a turbo I had laying in the shed. We rebuilt the turbo, replaced the turbo. Like, we had problems, but everything was fixable. And we made some decent passes. The last day, literally, the ride back to Bradenton from South Georgia, the turbo was leaking so much oil that it literally had like a quart of oil in the exhaust pipe. We were smoking like a freight train. We were just about there, pulling to the exit to get off for Bradenton, and they're doing construction. This is before Bradenton blew up. And there's this cop there, and we're smoking like a diesel truck, like bad. Like your injector's stuck on a diesel truck, just white smoke pluming up. And this guy, for some reason, the light didn't turn. We missed it or something, so we were just sitting there. And this guy came up to me. He was like, "Shut that piece of crap off." I don't remember what he said. He said, "Everything you're doing here is illegal. Do you think this is legal? Like, this is like, you can't do this." Like, he's about to give me a ticket. And I was like, I'm just trying to get to my hotel, man. It's just like right over there. And he let us go. We drove over there, and I replaced the turbo the next morning. But like, the O2 sensor was literally caked in oil. And I have no idea to this day, because I didn't have, it wasn't running closed loop. Like, this was, I still get those confused. It wasn't running off of the tune-up. It was running off the oxygen sensor. To this day, I still don't exactly know how it made it, because that oxygen sensor should have not been working. It should have gone so fat or so lean, whatever, that the engine shouldn't have been able to run, but it was still running like fine, which was pretty crazy to me. And I was like, that's pretty cool. So a lot of strange things like that happened. We got a ton of coverage in 1320, and everybody said y'all aren't gonna make it. Like, that was the consensus from day zero whenever they posted that video. These people aren't gonna make it, and we made it. And literally, probably after we showed up, because it rained going to Orlando, when we finally showed up in Gainesville, that was pretty much when people were like, interesting. I don't know. Guess they know something, or they're just lucky one. So they kind of quit, like, talking the crap, because I was like, I remember we got to the pilot and I was very depressed because I started reading some comments and I was like, man, everybody hates us. Like, this sucks, man. And then we finally got to Gainesville and everybody's like, yeah. And 1320 did a video that day, and like, we were like, no, people actually like this thing. So we went through all the fun stuff of the award ceremony. We were literally, I think, 120 something in our DYO class. Like, we didn't make any waves. It was like, man, I really hope we could do this again one day. This was a lot of fun. And then we went home. And then after that, we did some races for Streetcar Takeover. I put twin turbos on it. I changed the cam and did an oil pump and some different little things, because it was literally complete stock everything the first year. It ran a 10.9 or something. Really not that bad for, that was the first time that car had ever been on the track. Zero testing. I wouldn't say everything went perfect, but as far as I'm concerned, everything went perfect. And then we did our other racing stuff, and then I was like, man, how are we gonna get back in? Because you have to fill out all this, and it sold out pretty quick the first year. So I was all worried about this, and I get I get an email, and it's like, you're in the top. I forget what it was. It was like a top 100, and I was like, freaking yeah! Like we got back in. Like I'm gonna bring the 240 and all this stuff. Like I was gonna do it. Like they're gonna see like all this other stuff. Like who cares about that Triumph? I didn't even like that thing anyways. Like we're gonna do this with the 240. And then I was idling the 240 out there. I walked inside and it shut off. Like the thing shut off all the time. The thing ran like garbage. It ran okay, but it never idled well. It just shut off. So I was like, oh, I'm messing with idle tuning anyways. Yeah, I asked Kaylin, did you turn that off? She's like, no, why would I touch your car? I was like, I mean, I don't know, it just shut off, so I was just wondering. But I came back out there, went to go crank it up, didn't start. It's like, oh man, it's like something's going on. I got on the laptop. No, everything looks good. Kept trying to crank it. Something sounded a little funny. So I was like, what the heck is that? Like it wouldn't run at all. Like normally it would kind of start to run, you wide open throttle and finally start. I tried for a little while and I was like, something's wrong. Pulled the valve cover off. Push rod hung underneath a rocker. Hung the valve open. I had so much seat and open pressure that it stripped the timing belt and every valve hit every single piston. It bent four rods at idle. That's how much spring pressure this thing had. And I was like, dang it. I was really sad. Like I had like 30 grand in this engine. Like this was my pride and joy. So I was like, golly. I could put rods in it, but I've always had trouble. This Triumph, man, that thing's just been so easy from day one. Whatever. It's kind of cool, I guess. What am I going to do? We'll see. So then at some point, Rich came into the picture. He offered to sponsor us. I didn't know who this guy was. Caitlin knew him in passing because she worked at ENT and he was the IT guy there. He owned the company Brightside. And he literally offered to us, to me, didn't even know me, to sponsor the car. I was like, okay, I mean, we can talk about it. I've been sponsored before by a guy. He gave me $500 originally on the Triumph. So literally, the Triumph has always been sponsored in some way or shape or form. Every time we went, he gave me $5,000, and I was like, okay, we can do something with this. I bought and got ripped off on chromoly tubing. I couldn't bend it. I bought a bender, like a JD squared ripoff from Eastwood or whatever it was. 5-inch centerline die, doesn't work on chromoly under like 080 wall, just doesn't work. So I had Danny Bittner. He bent some stuff for me, got that figured out. I spent that $5,000 building a chassis under this car while maintaining the front suspension of a stock Triumph Spitfire. The chassis was modeled after the same type of stuff that I built the 240, like a McAmis drawing. I used that. I modified a few things to fit what we were doing. I built this chassis inside of 3 weeks, something very quickly. I ordered up all these parts using some extra money. I believe I took I can't remember, like some of the stuff is a little bit blurry. I can't remember if I used all the money from the 240 engine. I sold everything out of that. I sold the engine, everything for $7,000 as is. A dude bought it within like a day. I know I got ripped off on that because at the time, the part shortage was pretty massive. I mean, I probably could have made my money back, but I sold everything. I sold the Dominator. I sold the Pro 600. I sold every bit of wiring. I sold the engine complete. I sold everything because I was like, I need money for this car. They like it. I don't really like it, but I can do something with it if I can put an actual chassis in it. I built this chassis. I bought a 9-inch rear end. The car from day one has always been 4-link. Like even the original was a Bush 4-link, but this was a true Pro Mod 4-link. Bars were very short. I didn't have enough travel in it, so I put a 26-inch tire on it. I couldn't get enough separation because the drive shaft would hit the number 1 bar and also contact the drive shaft hoop. But anyways, in golly, like 3 months, chassis was built. I bought an engine from AMS Racing. It was a catastrophe. Like, oh my goodness. We got this engine in, and the head surface was, you could feel it with your fingernail. And I was like, MLS gasket, you cannot do that. Anyways, sent that thing back, and he resurfaced it. Everything seemed fine. Put that engine in there, refreshed the 4L80E. I think at that point I had John Tessier do it. I can't remember if I originally had him do it then or not. I want to say yes, he did. So got everything. It was a 383 stroker, 2066 millimeter turbo, full 6.0 certified 25 1K chassis, 26-inch tire, 9-inch rear end, like a NASCAR rear end. Nothing fancy. And we got out there once we got back to sick week. Well, first off, what we did was we went to Carolina Dragway to test. We have never had a successful test session, but every time we tested, we learned exactly what we needed to be able to finish our event, namely sick week events. So when we first got back, sick week 2023, I was there to make a statement. In my mind, it was like the ultimate. Everybody thought this thing was a piece of crap. Nobody really knows what it is because it kind of looked the same. I posted everything on YouTube, and I was not shy about what the car really was, but nobody really paid attention. Put it on Instagram. It got a little bit of traction, like 500 whatever views, but no one really paid attention. So we got there, and the first pass, I think, went pretty well. Day 0, I think it was a decent pass. I think we learned what we needed to learn. I don't know if it went really, really fast. I think it was like an 8 something, because I remember talking to Fred White about it. And I was worried it would take a long time to get back to like the 880 range, but I think we did that day 0, the third pass on the car since I completely rebuilt, like literally cut the floor out, everything. The only thing the same about that car was the headers, the roof, and part of the firewall and the body. That was it. Everything else was completely different. 100% fresh, brand new stuff. And we went through that sick week, and everything went pretty good. What was 2023? Did we do an 8-second average?
I think so.
I think we did an 8-second average. Nothing crazy happened. I don't remember anything.
That was high gear only, or was that 2024?
Oof, don't remember. No, the first year I think everything went fine.
Okay. 2024 was high gear, 2025 was 7 seconds.
Yeah, so everything went okay. We were the cover photo for 1320 again, I believe. Day 0 cover photo. Got decent coverage, like we had a good time. Seemed like everybody was like, wow, thing's actually fast now. So I was like, it was pretty cool. Almost like a little redemption of like, yeah, you guys thought this thing was a piece of joke, blah, blah, blah. And after that, I remember. I have reconciled with AMS and the guy over there, but what happened with that engine was there was a lot of material left over somewhere. I wish I could find a photo of the main bearings. Literally, I don't know how something could run 1,000 miles and be so like chewed up. I dug deep grooves into the copper. I passed so much material. This thing should have locked up. Like all I was using was like Rotella 1540. Like not, it's just diesel oil, like nothing crazy. And there was so much metal in the oil filter. I was like, I don't know if we're gonna make it, but we made it. Um, and that was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. That's kind of cool that happened. Like I was pissed off at the time. I was like, I made a video and slandered this guy's shop, which I was. Oh, it's like things happen. Obviously, like anything that moves is going to break. But there are certain things that's like it shouldn't have been this way. We got a lot of miles on that engine, and I didn't even realize how bad the bearings were until I finally took the thing apart after we blew a head gasket. Where was that at? Streetcar takeover Bradenton. We did a PB of like 7 something, right? Was that?
I think that was maybe.
Anyways, popped a head gasket. I thought it was just a head gasket. Actually, it started laying over. Like I saw puff, puff, puff. I was like, man, but it still ran. So I was like, that was weird. And then we were, yeah, there was water on the windshield. So I knew something had happened. And then I was going to try to make another pass because I thought, the head gasket must have lost it and then reclamped. Little did I know, we bent like 4 rods. And the wrist pins were bent. No, yeah, just the wrist pins were bent. I don't even know if any rods were actually bent. Maybe the rod was bent too. Yeah, but it didn't, like, it just pushed out a little bit, smudged out a little bit of the head gasket. The only reason I didn't make another pass is because we were leaking water because the radiator had flexed back and hit the belt and it rubbed a hole in it. That was the only reason we didn't make a pass. I was like, oh, okay. So at that point, I found the bearings, all the material. Like there's a lot of stuff. Like everything in that engine was scarred up just because so much trash ran through it. So then I went over to David McIntosh, a dirt track guy, engine builder. I love David, but golly, that man is slow. And I am like, my hair is on fire. Like I gotta have everything yesterday. Like I get so bent out of shape over stuff like traffic. Oh my goodness. If I see red on, Apple Maps, like I'm like, oh my gosh, there's traffic! Because just so used to like overheating and stuff like that. And this is the abridged version of all this, by the way. But anyways, I had him build or bore and hone the original block that we used in 2022. Crusty little 5.3. Another 383 stroker. I used the same crank. It's like a K1 crank. I can't remember what rods. They're just some H-beam rods and some shelf pistons. Can't remember what pistons. They might have been Wiseco's. And no, the rods were. I can't remember, but they were L19. I remember it was like this big thing. Oh my gosh, L19! Don't touch them. Hydrogen embrittlement. They're gonna break. Like it was a big deal to me. It's funny because Steve just talked about this stuff. But I remember being like, oh, don't touch them. Wear gloves. But anyways, put this engine back together and the thing ran pretty good. Pretty dang good. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty good. Popped the head gasket the first time we went out bragging rights testing. Boom! Oil pump making so much pressure that it pushed out my little dog bone block off. I forget. Now the dog bone was in there, but then there's a little button you put on. And it wasn't a button yet. It was it was like a freeze plug, a plug that you put in there, push the plug out, the oil pressure tanked to nothing. And I was like, this thing just blew up. We blew a head gasket, the oil pressure like went to nothing. And then fixed it with a O-ring button, and we took it to sick week. Like literally a few weeks later, or a month later. And this was when was that? That's 2024, right?
The high gear.
Yeah. So what happened there was, we glazed over 6 summer. We'll just talk about that later. We did decent at 6 summer. 6 summer was always where we did a better average. One year we got there, and yeah, I was in the gravel, and I'm glad I was in the gravel because I was bumping it, and all of a sudden it just let off the trans brake on its own, and I went wah! But I was in the gravel, so it just shot some gravel. Like there were people everywhere. Like probably, maybe would have hit somebody, maybe not. But anyways, we spent that whole week except for like the last day or two. Was it the last day?
I think we got it the third day.
Third day, I think. At the end of the day, we put in the reverse servo. So we spent the whole week without reverse, no trans brake. Literally, I talked to Scott Keplinger, and he's like, "Why don't you just do your rev limiter at like 2,000 so you can stay floored and foot brake it?" So I was like, "That's a really good idea." So we did it. And we still managed an 8-second average. And we finished. We just had to be very careful about how we parked because we had no reverse. John Tessier Performance overnighted us to reverse servo. Always been a great friend. Always helped us out with the transmission stuff. So sick week 2024, I think it was one of those where it was going good and then something weird happened. A guy kind of burned us down. I should have just let off, but I was on the trans brake for like 9 seconds. I don't have rollerized thrust. I didn't have but one trans cooler, and I was just banging off that limiter for like an hour, it felt like. And I made the pass. Pass was fine. And then just felt weird. We went the whole week that week without a sprag low. We had no low reverse sprag, or what was it? No. Which sprag was it? I think it's the intermediate clutch sprag. Was rolled and was not there, so we lost no first gear or no second gear. So that roller rise or I know what it looks like, but anyways, they lock together. In first gear, it goes one way. In second gear, they lock together and turn the other way together. Or probably not explaining it correctly, but the low reverse stuff is tied together. The low second gear stuff is tied together with that sprag. So literally had no second gear. And come to find out, I didn't know at the time. I knew that was messed up likely because I talked to John about it. But I didn't know at the time that the sprag and the converter was also trashed. So we tried getting up on the brake, and I apologize to anyone and I tried telling everybody, hey, something's wrong. I need to get in first because I don't know what the heck's going to happen. Could not get this thing to build boost. We were leaving off of, it was still a trans brake, leaving first to third. Still managed an 8-second average. I remember Matt Lamphere had his mouth wide open because I told him what was going on, and I was like, "What's up?" And I was like, "What do you mean? It's fine. Everything's fine." He's just like, "You are so strange." Whatever. Anyways, yeah, 8-second average with no second gear, 2 rolled sprags. Just said, I don't have time to do anything, so we're just gonna run it. Literally, don't know how that happened. I do now, but at the time I was just like, I am like super, super lucky, I guess. Like, this is nuts. Because we always made it. It was just like these things would happen. It was no big deal. I was starting to get numb to it because it's like, this always happens. It's just like we're destined for greatness. Like, nothing can stop us. And then sixth summer came, 2024. I think that one was pretty good. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so we always had this weird electrical problem that I didn't realize was caused by the time I rewired the car and forgot for whatever reason to put ECU power directly to the battery. So it caused this strange issue to where the trans brake would come on its own randomly, and also later on it would mess up the injectors trying to build boost. So that year we had the year of wiring problems. We met Steve Cox. Was it no?
I don't know.
No, I think it's Steve. Steve.
It is Steve.
Steve from WireCare, and he gave us a sweet little relay, and it helped us out a lot. I just think they're so ugly. I still have it, and I will give it to anybody that needs one. But I like the MSD relays just because they're so simple. But he gave us wiring. He gave us like any information he could. He gave us stand up dude, and we finished very tough, very very tough. It was one of those things where it was a simple problem. But when you're at sick week and all these people are around you, I lost my mind. I literally was like, I didn't know how to speak. I couldn't do anything. It wouldn't run. I knew what was going on, but I physically could not get my hands to make this harness. And a man named Evan Erkowitz needs some help. And I was like, yeah, like I don't know what's going on. So he just kind of looked at some stuff, and then we had this guy go grab Steve Morris. Steve Morris came over. We had, what's his name? The guy.
We had Kessler.
Yeah, Kessler came over, and he did his best, and super just glad that anybody came over there. But when Steve came over, he was like, yeah, I'll just let y'all have this. Steve came over and told me that it was likely the trigger, the sensor, the Hall effect sensor, which turns out it wasn't. I told him it was because it worked what we did, but that wasn't actually the problem. So Evan Erkowitz and Mark Forsman came over and helped me make this little adapter harness to go from the 12-1 trigger to the original 24X crank sensor in the back of the engine, and it ran. I was like, I gave Evan the biggest hug, and he got goosebumps. He told me about this. He's like, weird when it's 90 degrees, man gives you a hug and you get goosebumps. Like, just a weird, like, it was really cool to see people like help somebody, and it just happened to be me. Like, I heard stories about this, but I was like, that's really cool. I still talk to Evan a decent amount. I haven't talked to Mark in a while, but super grateful for those guys. And we staged the car under its power. We would have got a 20. We still would have won, but I wanted an 8-second average. I just wanted it. So I was over there with why am I forgetting his name? Carl. And Carl is one of the best dudes I've ever met as far as just super encouraging. I love Carl. Like, I really do. It's one of those people you meet and you're like, I like this guy. I'm like that. If I meet you, I know within a few minutes if I can get along with you. Some people have been an exception and they grow on you. But generally speaking, I know pretty instantly who I can get along with. And Carl was definitely one of those. Him and Adam had that, their little gasser deal. I think it's the gasser class. Anyways, and he was like spitballing with me, like, what about this? What about that? And at this point, I was like, I give up, man. And then he's like, tell you what, Tim, let's try this. Why don't you just run the wire? We'll just try it. I was like, fine, I'll try it. I ran a wire straight from the ECU outside the car and around, straight into the adapter for the sensor for the crank. And I was like, whatever, hit the button, thing fired right up. I was like, oh my goodness, this has been the problem the whole time. Like, literally die at stoplights. Every time we go to stage, it would die. It was like, this is embarrassing, and this is like so annoying. Every time it happened, it was we're testing in the pits, ready to go. They call us, won't start. What the flip, man? Like, oh my goodness, this like always happens when we got to get up to the line. We got into the staging lanes and the thing died. And it was like, what the heck? I chewed off the wires for the neutral safety switch so we could just bump it in off of the starter. I was like, I'm done. And then Carl was like, just give it a try. And it worked. So I was like, holy jumping Jehoshaphat, let's go. And made a pass, an 8-second pass. And it was like, we got our 8-second average. Oh, we won. Unlimited. Oh, granted, Nick Taylor blew his engine up one day too, or whatever. So we had no competition other than ourselves. Which, yeah, was still like very difficult. So we got our orange helmet. First thing that I actually won, and I said, I don't deserve this. And I was feeling sorry for myself because I am the slowest guy in Unlimited. First and last. And I was like, anybody could have done that if they were in the class. Doesn't matter that I was in there because we have a stretched chassis and it was the only class we could go in besides DYO. It didn't matter that we had went through all these struggles to get there and the finish, and I wanted to make an extra pass to secure an average. It didn't matter to me. I just didn't belong. And then I talked to Keith, and Keith said, you know what? F that, man. You deserve it. And I was like, okay. Okay. And I still didn't think I deserved it. So I was like, thanks, Keith. And we took our photos and stuff. We had a good time. Felt undeserved still. We did more racing. We raced. Oh, I don't even remember. We don't race that much. But I at some point talked with Kyle Loftus in the staging lanes. Generally speaking, when I say something, I am 100% serious, regardless of how crazy you think it is. And I told him and everybody on YouTube on 1320 that if I could raise money by everybody giving me $1, I would buy a Texas Speed. I think I wanted like the Reaper block or the Reaper or whatever. And I got like $900 and also donations from Rich, and altogether was like $2,000. So I saw some of the people's comments and I said, I have to do this. Doesn't matter that my wife needs a car, I just need to do this because I made a commitment. I promised Caitlin a car for years now, but somehow I still managed to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a car. Yikes. But anyways, so in between 2024 and 2025, I purchased, with the help of a lot of people, but I personally saved $14,000. Donations from 1320's fans was like 800 and something. Rich gave 1,000, and I think somebody else gave like $200. Yeah, we're not supposed to mention that. Somebody donated turbos and money and said, don't ever tell anybody who this is. Thanks. So turbos were donated. I purchased this short block Texas Speed 427. Really pretty good stuff. Good for about 2,000-ish horsepower. Caitlin got me a loan for $10,000 to get every other little thing that needed to be bought, and ended up spending $26,000 on the engine and the heads and all that, plus several other thousands, so around $30-something thousand for this engine. I wanted to go fast, like fast.
People still say that YouTube built your cars.
Yeah, and YouTube built my car. Money from YouTube, which is ironic because when you live this stuff, these stories are not what they seem, and that is why I'm doing this. So put this engine together, Circle D bolt together converter 4L80E. We had already ran, I think, a 7-second average No, maybe
did 20.
very low 8 second, maybe not. We ran sevens, but I'm not sure if we ever finished. I think we finished with a 7 second average, but it was 4 sevens and 1 8. But the average was still sevens. I think that's what it was. Could be wrong. I can't remember all of this. But, and this is where stuff started getting a little weird. I put this together. We went testing at Carolina Dragway. Everything went wrong. I had to get a pro license because I wanted to run faster than 750. I did my testing there. I made 3 passes that were all absolute garbage, but enough to start my pro license. I think maybe it was 4 passes. Then you had to do 6 altogether. And then it was like, we have to go get a 2 passes faster than 750. At this point in time, the fastest I've ever been was a 764 at 180 something. Anyways, so I had never even been that fast. We had never even made a pass in the car that was worth a darn. We loaded up the car, went to Bradenton. I put a random tune-up in it, and I just put this tune-up in it. It was cold. Let off the button, and I was like, ooh, this thing feels good. It ran, what was it?
729, is that the first one?
No, that was the second one.
734.
734. I have never been that fast in my life. I never needed to go that fast. Let me explain this. We had one shot at this. There was only one shot. There was only one test day. It was a private test session. I was there with a bunch of people. It was freezing cold. And I just assumed there would be plenty of people there with a pro license.
There were only 7 people there.
Turns out there were 7 people testing, is what Caitlin's saying. And the very first pass, I ran a 738, was it?
I think it was 734.
734, something I had to check. And at the end of the track, there's smoke everywhere. Something happened. I was like, great. I just blew this thing up. Pull over, there's literally quarts of oil draining out of the catch pan under my car. So I was like, what the heck? But I'm like super excited because we have one pass. Like, this is doable now. We can actually get our pro license. I spent 4-ish hours cleaning up this car. What happened was I didn't have enough crankcase ventilation, and the pressure in the engine built up so much that it pushed out the rear main seal. I dumped probably a good 4 quarts out going 190 something miles an hour. I don't know how many people have had oil under their tire at 190 something. Generally, it doesn't turn out well. But everything was fine. There was oil all over the inside of the tires. I could see, I felt chatter, but I was like, I've got to stay in this. I didn't know what was going on. I saw a little bit of smoke. I knew something was going on. There's the stripe. I got to get past it. I felt it kind of like, yeah. Like you can feel when it's slipping. It just like, but anyway, so I was like, I can't let out now. I've got to go. So I threw the chutes, went through the traps. Whoo! Blew the rear main seal physically out of the back of the engine, dumped out at least estimated 4 quarts right into the catch pan for the transmission, which is just some pig mat and a flat panel. Oil covered the bottom of the car, all over the tires on the inside. Caitlin and I spent 4 hours cleaning this thing up. My solution was we need one more pass. We have to make one more pass.
You made a tool to push the...
Yeah, but you do what you do. I took an old paint roller, cut it in half, the little tip, and used it to push the rear main seal back in. I was like, oh, this works. I took and just omitted the lines. I literally took the filler cap off of the valve cover. These are stock LS valve covers, and literally put a rag around it and said, we're doing this. We get up there, stage. This thing leaves like a freaking legend. 1960 foot. Thing freaking rips. 729 at 194 or something. Like, what the heck? No, I thought that would be the hardest part. And then I started talking to some people, and I'm like, man, I just ran the fastest pass in my life. Does anybody here with a pro license? I talked to Kyle Wade, and he's like, no, I don't have one. Like, what do you mean you don't have one? Like, y'all race all the time, you don't have one? And then his buddy, I can't remember. The guy that always, he has the diesel truck, Wyatt, was like, man, I really hope you find somebody. I was like, that's cool. I appreciate him saying that. But I was like, I thought you guys had pro license for sure. I walk up to this big toter, and I was like talking to this guy. I said, hey, do you know anybody that has a pro license? I didn't realize who I was talking to. This was, what's his name? I can't remember his name. The tuner.
The tuner?
Yes.
Which one?
That's what I'm trying to remember.
Not Derek?
No.
I don't remember.
What is his name? He does all the... I'm going to have to look this up. This is how serious I am about this. God, what's his name? He does tuning for Proline. Like the tuner for 481X, all this stuff. I had no idea who he was. One of the guys came up because he was like, oh yeah, this guy named Eric. And I was trying to remember his name. Eric, right? Eric. Short hair, buzz cut, Eric. Okay. When he comes back from his pass, he'll probably help you out. So I was like, all right, cool. So we waited around, and I'm talking to this guy named Eric, and he's nice. Like, I was like, oh, thanks, man. He's like, yeah, man, I wouldn't have done this like 10 years ago, but I'm just going to help you out. So I was like, sweet. And the guys in his trailer were kind of chuckling. They're like, you don't even know who this guy is, do you? I was like, I mean, no, like, what's your name? Eric Dillard. Ah, I've heard of you. He says, yeah, I own Proline Racing. I was like, ah, okay. And then I was like, I really appreciate you doing this. He says, no problem, man, but I just feeling generous, whatever. And then I said, I need one more signature. Do you know anybody? And he said, yeah, there's a guy over there. I said, yeah, I talked to him. He just kind of didn't want anything to do with it. And he's like, you know what? I'm feeling unusually generous today. Come on, let's go over there. I'll get him to, I know him pretty well. I'll get him to sign it. So he goes over there. He literally fills out the paperwork for this guy because this guy's a grouch, apparently. And we're sitting over there. Caitlin and I are sitting in this Eric guy's golf cart. And he's over there talking to this guy. Some guy named Ricky. And he's like, yeah, this guy did great. I watched all his passes, blah, blah, blah. He says, will you sign it? And he says, yeah, just sign your signature. Eric literally filled out the whole paperwork for everything for this guy named Ricky. What's his last name?
Smith?
This is Ricky Smith.
Like 11-time
Like
world champion.
the Ricky Smith that I had no idea who he was. So Eric Dillard and Ricky Smith both signed my pro license application. There were some problems with the application because the track official already signed everything. Some of it was at Bradenton, the last two. Some of it was at Carolina Dragway. So I was all worried about how they're going to see this and they're not going to let me. I didn't know who these people were, really. I knew who Eric was because I had followed some of this stuff. And who's the tuner guy?
I don't know. I don't see it like easily accessible.
Who's the Proline tuner?
Well, I put that in and I didn't really get anything.
Bobby knows him too.
It doesn't say like just tuner.
Well, anyways, this guy is the legendary tuner. I can't remember his name, and
I'll read you all the names.
yeah, go ahead. Uh-huh.
Doug Patton.
Uh-huh.
Danny Huff.
No.
Jonathan Crosby.
No.
Joey Bell.
No.
Tyler Burgess.
No.
Daniel Alberts.
He doesn't work at Proline. He is his own person.
He's on their website.
Who?
Oh. Well,
The guy I'm talking about?
let's
He's
see.
the same guy that ended up tuning for Cletus McFarland on Eagle and stuff. Does all the 481X. Huh?
KSR.
No, not Kevin. I can't remember his name. Anyways, you know who I'm talking about, I'm sure. Anyways, what was I talking about? Yeah, I didn't know who these people were, and they signed my license, blah, blah, blah. We're like, this was amazing, man. Like, we are just super, super lucky.
Petty.
Steve Petty. Yeah. I just randomly bumped shoulders with Steve Petty and said, hey, man, do you know anybody that has a pro license? He's like, sorry. Anyways, so at this point, I was starting to have a feeling that something interesting was going on. I've always believed in God, but I've always been of the feeling like God owes me something. He's going to have to prove himself to me in the way I want him to. I saw this stuff and I was like, man, it seems kind of like maybe God's doing this, because this is 190 something with oil in the tire, and then all this stuff happens. I prayed about some of this stuff, and I'm not sure what my dad and Caitlin, my dad has prayed for me probably every day of his life. And,
Well, me and the pastor were praying for you.
and my pastor was praying for us, which I'd recently-ish been going back to church and trying to get into it a little bit. But I was struggling, like I said, because I wanted to see him how I wanted him to be. So, we had our two passes. We sent in the paperwork. We had a pro license. We had this whole debacle about getting a suit. There was this snowstorm that was coming in. The suit debacle still irks Caitlin to this day.
I hate it.
It is, yeah. So Sick Week 2025 was the first pass I made. This is when I started to realize I'm not actually in control. I wasn't exactly sure who was, but I knew it wasn't me. Because the first pass out there, I had redone the crankcase ventilation, so I got a little catch can and I had a big tank in the back for puke tank. Yeah, and we had 2 chutes at that time because I wanted to go fast, right? And I said, we went 729 by accident. By golly, we're about to go 6 something. First rip out there. I get to about 800 feet. For some odd reason, I threw the chute. And one came out. And at that exact time, the puke tank overflowed and sent oil underneath the tire. And I jerked pretty good. And I was like, I am super glad the chute was out. I had no intentions of throwing the chute. I just did. And I'm not joking. This is not a joke. And I was like, whoa, that was like crazy. And I think I told Fred, I was like, I think God really has been looking out for me on that. And I didn't really think about it too much. So at that point, I was starting to think about some stuff a little bit differently. I grew up in a church. I believed in God. I accepted him very early on, but I wanted him to prove himself to me how I wanted him to prove himself. And I was pretty resistant to everything I saw. Just was like, it's coincidence that all these things have seemed to happen the way they happened. We met a lot of people that were just like the right people at the right time. And I was pondering on the way while we were just driving one night. And it was weird because it was the same time where that comet came through. It's like a surreal moment. And I was just thinking about this stuff. And I was just mulling it over, and Kayla and I still talk about it. We walked over to Subway, and you have to understand, when we're doing these events, everything is a giant blur. You're on so much adrenaline that you're almost on drugs. Like it is. What happened that year was we left South Georgia at like 4 or 5 p.m. and we didn't get to our hotel until like 1:30. And it's not like you can just drop everything and go straight to sleep. Your head is buzzing, like it's so loud, you're breathing fumes, like you're not just gonna go fall asleep. So we didn't get to sleep until like 2:30, and we woke up at 5:30 the next morning. Everybody was tired. And I made that pass, and what happened? I think something happened that pass too. Like I got close to the wall or whatever, and I was like, man, I really probably shouldn't even be driving this car right now because I was so tired. And we were walking the Subway, and it was like we died. Like it was so weird, the weirdest feeling ever. Like I put my hand on my heart, I couldn't feel it beating. I had my Apple Watch at the time, so I could look back if I wanted to or what actually happened. There was like some weird turning point, and I remember at some point we were driving, and I said, you know what? I give up. I'm tired of fighting. If you're real, just whatever. Just do your worst. And at that moment, for me, I just had this feeling of I knew for a fact that God was real, Jesus was real, He died, He rose again on the third day, and He's the Savior of the world. I knew it for a fact. I don't know how to explain this feeling when it just hits you. Like, oh my goodness, this is actually real. Like you hear stories and it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I knew, personally, I knew for a fact that this was real. And I got like it went from like me to like crazy. Like all of a sudden the next day, I'm not very confident when it comes to talking to people. But I just got so fired up that I could talk to anybody. I cold called Eric Dillard and offered my services, and he was like for it. Like I called him, I got his number, got Caitlin to get his number. He answered like he was just waiting to hear from me, and I said, hey, I want to work for you. And I was like I was doing all these things. I was so bold. And I got the message, but I missed the lesson. What I got in that car and later on was I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then God kind of felt like He said, I didn't give you these skills to take them away. I was always afraid that if I truly surrendered, I was going to be a pastor in church and I was just going to hate life, because that's how I saw it. It was like, I do not like praise and worship. I don't like talking to people, but whatever. If this is what I'm supposed to do, then just guess I'm going to be miserable. And He was like, hang on to your seat there, feller, because I didn't give you these gifts and talents for you to squander them. And that was the message that I got, and I ran with it. I told my brother that I was going to be a millionaire. I told all these people like we're about to change the face of the world and all this stuff. I talked to people. I called Jason from 10 Soldiers, and I didn't let him say a word. I hit this guy so hard with this stuff about how he inspired me. He didn't even know what to say. And I was just so fired up. I haven't talked to Jason since then. I don't even know if he knows who I am, but it happened. And then I started getting on this tangent of like, I want to do this. What is the streetcar stuff? So I was like, and I'll say personally, I don't care what you drive. I don't care what it is. If you're having fun, that's awesome. Because that's really what this stuff is about. Having fun. a community, and just growing with people. But I had it in my thought that I could make controversy and make money from it. So I started posting these controversial things on Facebook, and they got a lot of attention. And I made somebody, I hurt their feelings, and I was joking about 90% of this stuff, intentionally causing drama. And if you know me, I actually don't like drama. I just had this idea and felt like I was supposed to do that for some reason. But I hurt this guy's feelings because it turned out he was a big fan of mine, and I pretty much just slandered him because I was just like, I just want to prove this guy wrong about this topic. And it turned out that he was a big fan of mine, and he didn't realize, no one realized, that I was just doing a social experiment with people that I shouldn't have been doing. And I really felt like I hurt this guy's feelings. And then Caitlin was talking to me, and she's like, I don't like this. Like, a lot of things were happening at that time. So I was like, okay, I need to stop doing this. This is not helping anyone. I'm fired up for God and all this stuff, and yet I'm sitting here causing drama. So I stopped. I had these ideas, and then I was like, I'll do something else. I don't know how many people are dog people, but at this time, Kaylin had this little dog named Dingo. And he had just congestive heart failure, so we knew his time was limited. And there at the very end, I grew very close to him because he couldn't breathe one night, and I just held him for 45 minutes until my arms were numb, just so he could sleep. Anyways, he passed away, and it really hit me hard because I had a lot of dog trauma growing up. And I never really latched on to a dog. Like, I got a dog because I was the best person at the time to take care of her. And I did it begrudgingly, but because I felt like I needed to. But I never latched on to a dog the way I did him. So it hit me really hard. And I started feeling sorry for myself because I wasn't as popular as I wanted to be. I wasn't as influential as Cletus or Kyle from 1320. Nobody cares. Why am I even doing this? And I started to fall into a slight depression. We went to Six Summer, and I had this overwhelming feeling like I don't want to be here. Something bad is going to happen. And I told Caitlin, I want to leave. And she's like, what do you mean? I don't know. I just don't feel right. Like, I'm not having a good time. I don't want to be here. I talked to Carl, and Carl was like, what do you mean, Tim? Like, what's going on? I love Carl because he's just such, and I think it's ironic because I don't think he does this to everybody, but he latched on to me, and he's like, man, what's going on? Like, talk to me. So I told him like what was going on, and he's like, I don't understand, man. Like, you're doing great. Nobody hates you. All this stuff is going good. And I was like, okay. I mean, I guess I'll stay. I guess I can stay. And then I started feeling better. We had this problem that was an ongoing problem with the wiring. What happened was I didn't hook up the battery straight to the ECU power, or ECU power directly to the battery, so it was causing these weird issues. And we were having issues, and I burned somebody down accidentally, and what's his name? Starting line guy, or the John Sears got mad at Caitlin. Like, we were doing it on purpose, and she's like, listen, we would never do this on purpose. And he's like, yeah, okay. But I wanted to be by myself. And we go with Tri-State. We go to Tri-State, and it's a very narrow track. I never noticed until after I watched the video. And we were up against the guy in the green dart. God, I can't remember his name. But I talked to him a couple times. Like, the kid that works with him, I was actually getting pretty buddy with. Like, he's a pretty cool guy. So I told him, hey man, let me get in first because I've been having some problems and I really don't want to cause you any problems. And I'm sitting here, I'm so worried about the thing not spooling up because it was this big problem. You don't have any time to fix stuff like that. Like, you could, but then you're not going to get any sleep. So I was like, I don't know exactly what's wrong. We tried a few things, nothing worked. So I get in there and I do my burnout and then I stage and I'm like, oh, okay, this thing's actually staging. Okay, good. And it takes off and it's moving good. It's moving out and I'm like, this is a good rip. And I started noticing it's moving. So I start trying to move it back. And I only know this because I went through the data log and I know now what happened. I let out of the throttle and I had a bad habit of getting back in the throttle. I've gotten away with it a few times. On a radial, you don't get back in it. If it strikes the tire, give up. Because you're not going to get a good pass. Doesn't matter. But I was like, nah, I'm not making another pass. Like, it's too much effort to go back. I got to refuel. I got to pack whatever. We got to stay longer. I want one and done. Historically, that car has one and done every single time except for the final day where we got back and said, we don't have to drive anymore. I can make another pass. And I got out of the groove under full throttle, like right rear tire completely out in virgin asphalt. It spun it up instantly, slung me around. I don't care who you are. It happened so fast. Like, I've been in some hairy situations. I've been pretty broad sideways, brought it back. Like, that's another thing that happened. We were testing and my tire got caught. We went straight sideways and all of a sudden it just straightened back out. Like, crazy stuff. Like, I was pretty confident in the car. And it spun around so fast and just bam. I've wrecked the 240 twice and it felt like hitting clouds. I'm not sure why, but it didn't feel like anything. So I was like, like, I knew I was wrecking. It is the eeriest feeling when you realize I'm about to wreck. There's nothing I can do, and you're just sliding. I can't explain it. If you've been in that situation, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The screech is so loud, and there's nothing you can do. You're just like, thinking, man, this is going to cost so much freaking money. Boom, I hit the wall, and it hurt bad. Like, my shoulder hurt all day. Like, it hurt. Like, bad. My head banged off of the head supports and I had this little ring in my eye and it hurt. Like, I hit pretty freaking hard. Hit so hard that the wheel wrapped around the brake caliper. It shifted the whole forelink, broke the wishbone mount, or broke the actual wishbone tube, the centering tube, that 1-inch solid tube, broke it right in half. It broke it on the threads of the heim joint, but still, it broke it right in half, shifted the whole rear end, probably a good 4 inches sideways, just hit so hard. And I was distraught. Just, well, guess it was fun while it lasted. Stupid. I think I can fix it. Then I get to looking. Nah, there's nothing I can do. Bryant Goldstone, you need a drive shaft, man? I got a small one, probably fit. I was like, I don't know, maybe, man, maybe. And then I looked at the drive shaft. It hit the drive shaft hoop so hard that the chromoly drive shaft had a massive 1-inch concave in it. Nothing. Heim joints on the forelink bent. It's like, golly. All the tanks in the back were punctured. Every single one. Puke tank, punctured. Drive fuel tank, punctured. Race fuel tank, punctured. Also, it burned up the ignition. Or my, PDN. I hate that thing. Oh, anytime it gets wet, it's like it just leaves the dash or the ignition on all the time, but I run my coils off of different, so it doesn't matter. Anyways, and then I felt a little better because there was a lot of people that came up and was like, man, Man, in fact, I remember one guy. You probably don't know him. His name's Matt Reiki. I don't think anybody knows him. Riki's one of those guys that was an instant connection. I don't know what it is about Riki, just on the same wavelength as far as we're both nuts and we're loving it. Just whatever. Like I have a riot with Riki. But he was so scared and it's one of those things people say they care, but when you see somebody's face after they thought you died or something, it's like, wow, these people really care. And then like the drop in Derek's voice when he's announcing. Man, he really cared a lot. And it's like, wow. People do care. And then we're trying to figure out how the heck are we going to get this thing home. Like, I got to get this thing in the trailer. I don't want to drive or get a ride back and then drive with my truck and trailer back here. So I asked Tom if he could have his guy, Mark, what company was it? Pilot Transport. Cause we went up to Mark and was like, hey man, is there anything you could do to help us? Because we don't really have any way. And he's like, you're going to have to ask Tom because this is his deal. Asked Tom, and Tom was like, I don't care. I was like, sweet. So Mark went above and beyond. Him, what's the other guy? Brian. Brian and some other guys went above and beyond to get this thing in there. And at this point, I was functioning, but I was like in mourning. I don't know how to explain it. It was like somebody died. You're doing these actions, but you can't feel a thing. Like, I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I wanted to just crawl in a hole. But he got that thing in with the help of some of their guys. And I was like, well, glad that's over. We had a guy that was willing to take the trailer. I drove that trailer, like 7,000 miles. Never had a single problem with it. This guy loads up, and 20 minutes down the road, we're in Rick from Gear Vendor's RV with these, all these other scragglers that he picks up along the way. And there's this traffic jam, and I'm like, what the heck? I look out the center, there's just junk. I thought it was a wreck. There's junk everywhere on the highway. And then I see my trailer, and I was like, that's my trailer. Upside down, and everything I own is literally strung out on this highway. The fact is, we almost take everything I own as far as tools and stuff in our trailer. That was my life. My car that I spent every waking hour, I stripped out my favorite car and sold everything to fund this. Everything, all my tools, every spare part, everything that was worth anything to me was completely destroyed. Everything. And I couldn't talk. I wanted to tell these people when you're in the C class or D class and you're just hanging out, it's different than when you're in a fast car. And mine's not fast, but it is a fast car. The mindset is different. And these people are like asking me questions, and I just wanted to like strangle them, like, shut up. Like, do you not see what just happened? Like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to see anyone. I'm thinking these things, so I'm staring at a wall because I'm just trying not to lose my crap. And then Caitlin's like, it's probably not a good time. And I'm just like, I just want to get out of here. And then, Mark helped us out a ton. Like, when we got there, it gave me some perspective on some stuff. But I started to feel sorry for myself. Like, this is it. Like, I'm never racing again. And then I started falling into this, unknown to me at the time, extreme depression. I never was suicidal, but I was to the point to where I found no reason to get out of bed or do anything. And at the same time, I was trying to rebuild this car that realistically was a pretty simple rebuild. Like, I reback half the car because I wanted to. there was a tiny dent in the tube. Like, this thing's a tube chassis car. Like, everybody thinks it's a piece of crap, and they're like, "Oh my God, I thought you were dead." It's like, no, dude, this thing. If you see the photos, go look. If you really start looking at it, you're like, "Holy crap, why are you so slow?" And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, just very conservative. I mean, I was never worried about the safety in that car. But a lot of people were, because a lot of people see things, and it is my MO for that car is things are not what they seem. I am not what I seem. That car is not what I see, what it seems to be. And I think some people are catching on to there is something different about me in this car. As far as I don't care what it looks like. In fact, sometimes I do things on purpose just so people are like, "What a piece of junk." Just so they're like, because when you're parked up against a Steve Morris or what's his name with that Mustang, the blue one, naturally aspirated, Ed Enzer, like $200,000 car, and you're on the same field as they are, and you look over and there's this teetotal piece of junk looking car that's not a second at that speed is very far off, but to the average viewer, you're pretty close. Like, they run 6 seconds, you run 7 seconds, like low sevens to their medium to low sixes, and actually Ed Enzer, I was faster than him, but he's naturally aspirated. But anyways, like, you see this thing and it does something, and you're like, man, that kid, if he ever wrecks that thing, he's gonna die. And I'm like, I hear stuff like that. Like, that thing's a freaking death trap. And sometimes it irritates me because somebody once told me no one hears the things that you don't say. So no one knows anything about me other than what I've said. And I only care about how something performs. I don't care what it looks like, to an extent. I understand that some stuff is ridiculous. I would love to have a nice car. I just cannot afford to maintain a nice car. Point blank. If I scratched it, I can't afford to fix a $30,000 paint job. I can't even afford a $30,000 paint job, period. Like, some of this stuff is you really have to understand what you can afford. And just because you can afford it doesn't mean you can afford it. I can't afford this Texas speed engine in that if it breaks, we're done. I'm going back to that 383, and it's going to take me, unless something miraculous happens, a while to get back. So I like being the underdog. I do, to an extent. I started getting the feeling that I was being undermined. So let's step back. I got into this deep depression, and I didn't realize how deep it was. I had to get on antidepressants for like a month or so. And it had some side effects. Some of them, I've always had stomach problems. I've always had anxiety. I just now realized I have some OCD tendencies. But channeled correctly can be very, 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 very beneficial. I realize that now. But where was I going?
You went into a deep depression.
Oh, I went into a deep depression. I had to get on antidepressants. I didn't realize how bad it was until I started climbing out. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like curled up in this little fetal position, I literally was having panic attacks just going to do a rail install. That's easy peasy. Like, I couldn't drive to Atlanta because I don't know what it was. I was just terrified of everything. I went from being like on top of the world to like the tiniest little speck. You ever see that diagram? I went from here as low, hopefully as low as you can go. And then I finally started petering my way back up. I realized I know nothing, and anything I do know is straight up because of God. Everything I have done or do is because of Him, and I will spend as best I can my life doing everything for Him. Anything you see after this point is because of Him, for Him, and by Him. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever. I will try my best. I'm going to fail, obviously. I will fail. And I'm going to get mad about things, but I am trying my best to reflect Christ in what I do, what I say, who I talk to. I'm not one that's going to shove something down your throat, but if you want to talk, I love talking about this stuff. I know a tiny bit, but what I do know, I know pretty well. So I'm not a pastor, I'm not anything like that, but I can find out stuff and I can tell you the story of why I believe. So we did Sick Week 2026. And this was when I was like, okay, I accept that what he's doing. I am not in control of this. So I kind of came to that conclusion. And it helped my anxiety a lot. Sick Week 2026 was one of the best experiences as far as everything went perfect, in that nothing went perfect, but it all worked out perfectly. We got there, didn't even get any testing. Day 0, it was freezing cold. It was weird. When it's cold in Florida and you're racing, it's weird. Just whatever it is about it. I can't stand the cold. But we made a pass day 1. Great pass. Good pass. Any problems?
No, I don't think so.
Just taking a look at the oil pressure because it was starting to fall down at the end of the track. And I was like, I want to start hitting it real hard. I'm going to do plug chop day 0, blah, blah, blah. Nothing happened the way I wanted it to. So I was like, whatever. Not touching the tune. We're going to just clean up the fueling a little bit. That's it. We're just going to drop. It is what it is. I get there. I have these intentions. The reason why, other than being helped supernaturally, in my opinion, we do so well, is I get there, I make a pass, and I don't touch nothing. We just race that same tune-up, and whatever happens, happens. And that's largely what we did. So more evidence for God's help for us was during the rebuild, randomly, the IRS sends me a check for.
After we had prayed about it.
After we prayed about it.
You had like a freak out about it.
I was freaking out because I didn't have the money. Straight up, didn't have the money to fix the car.
2 days later.
Yeah. 2 days later, we get a check in the mail. $5,000 I overpaid in 2024. 2023, whatever it was.
2023.
Yeah, that long ago. Just enough to fix the car. Ironic? I think not.
But initially, you were like...
I was still a little skeptical because I was feeling bad for myself. I was still depressed at this point. I hadn't started climbing up. And it was like God just slapped me in the face and said, "What are you doing, man?" And I finally said, you know what? It's not what I want you to be. It's what you are and what I need to do for you. And it really hit me pretty hard. I don't do this for myself. I do this for Him. So that's my MO. And Sick Week 2026, we make our long drive to, to Bradenton. It was raining. No, the next day it was raining. It was fine. Traveling was like 350 miles. Trailer's back there. Oh, day before, a trailer just randomly pops off and just goes skidding down the road. Ironic that when it happens to me, and I'm not special by any means, I am just very blessed that He has chosen me for something very cool. Trailer pops off same way as it did for this other guy, but just skids. And we come off to the side of the road. Nothing's wrong. I jack it up, put it back on the ball, and say, I'm not using a wire lock as a trailer pin. So I put an actual lock on there. Good to go. We drive 350 something miles. Everything's pretty okay. It's raining. The PDM, it's not a PDM, it's a Pro Street module, gets wet. It hangs the relay for the ignition, but doesn't matter, just hangs the dash on, and it makes me nervous because that happened right before we wrecked. So I'm like, I don't like this. Something weird's going on. But
like, things act weird when they're wet.
Yeah. Caitlin's always pumping me up. She thought we would make it every time, but I literally thought we would never make it every time. Ironic. Anyways, we get there. I maintenance, do oil change and stuff like that. Talk to Nick and David Deal a little bit because they were in the same parking lot. Had plenty of time to look the car over. Everything seemed fine. Next morning, it's wet, rain, and they delay the track. So we start driving, and I hear something different. It's a squeak. Everything's wet. It's probably the Lexan in the back squeaking. Squeaky, 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 squeaky. Caitlin's like over there, what is that? And I'm like, nothing, it's fine. We get into Braden and go over a little speed bump, make it literally 50 feet. All of a sudden, the flipping trailer broke off. Straight from the only place I didn't have a guess at it. I'm not freaking out. Literally, I'm not. I'm like, okay. So literally, we went 350 miles. This could have happened at any point in time. And it happens at the best possible place during a delay where you could potentially get something fixed. It's like, okay. Went to Derek. Hey, Derek, can you please announce that we need a welder? He says, sure. Whatever he says. Yeah. Derek's always been very, very helpful. Derek's a very good friend of mine, too. So he announces it. No one. I talked to Mike. Hey, Mike Finnegan, do you have a welder? We did, but it's not here. Oh, cool. Go talk to Nick Taylor. Talk to Alex and Nick. Do y'all have a welder? Well, we did, but it's still in Gainesville. Okay. So somebody here has a welder. Oh, that guy is a MIG welder. The guy with the F-150. I was like, okay. It's a flux core MIG. This is literally the tether for our parachutes, also the mount for our trailer. I appreciate the offer, but I know exactly what flux core is as far as gasless flux. I can't do that. So the little lady at the gate says, oh, I know somebody. My buddy Kyle Wade knows somebody. So I was like, oh, cool. That'd be sweet.
She says she has one at her house. Right?
They have one at their house. Her husband, blah, 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 needs it. Okay, so I'm trying my best not to freak out, but my little wheels are like spinning and it's starting to smoke, figuratively. But we go over to this guy named R.C. Flint's house, and I was like, I just need a welder. That's all I could think. I was like, I can cut some steel off of something off the trailer if I need to. I can make this work. We get there, and Mr. R.C. Flint's like, hey, what's going on? And he's there with some Swedes. They're got their car on the lift, their rear end out and stuff like that. Y'all just doing some maintenance. Okay. What's going on, man? He's like, oh, I got this. And this dude proceeds to pull out this box of chromoly tubing, like literally sets everything up. It's like, I got this one. The first one he picked was like, I'm good with that. And he's going through it. It's like, let's not use, we can use this one. And he's got like this assortment of whatever. And I'm like, I just need that one and I'm good. But he's offering like all these things. And I'm like, this is crazy. Crazy. So we put a sleeve in there. We also clamshell the outside. And I gusset the bottom. Literally better than it was. Doesn't look better, but as far as functionality, better than it was. Like, that was pretty crazy. And that's one of the things where people come into play. Like, RC is a nice guy. That's the first time I'd actually really talked to him. I talked to him like in passing once or twice. But it's like one of those things where it's like, this is what they mean when they tell the stories about helping people. So I will now, and probably forever, carry a welder with me. So if you need a welder, come find me. I will have it. I promise you. It will be in the trailer. But we got it fixed up and everything was pretty good. Do we have anything else?
The header cracked.
Oh yeah. So then the next day, like small things.
Amazon header.
My Amazon header that's been on there for 8,000 miles since 2022, the very first iteration that I MIG welded up. You can still see the spatter of MIG weld on those headers. Cracked. I owe that thing nothing. In fact, I do owe it something. A debt of gratitude. Because he's been the best good boy. As far as the header. We call Wally the best good boy. But yeah. Like, stellar week. Stellar week. 733, 732, 728, PB. Like, stellar week. And, you know, I'm doing my best to be kind to people. I'm still struggling with like what I'm actually supposed to do. I felt a little bit slighted by someone because I felt they were supposed to come talk to me because we had become kind of friends. And then I felt like I'd just been slighted by all these people. No one likes me. We did all this and no one's noticing. So I'm still learning stuff, but I got through all that and I'm doing much better now. But those are just some of the small things. And there are a lot more things that I can point and say, this is where I saw God at work for me. This may happen differently for whoever. But what I will tell you will likely happen is you will go through this experience and then he will literally rip you directly in half. And it will be very rough. And then you will start to be put back together how he intends you to be. And it can be very jarring. So hold on. It gets better. You're not going to be perfect. No one is. I'm not. You're not. We're not. None of us are. But I hope this helps someone. I felt like I was supposed to do this. Don't know why. But I think it's important that people know. If you're interested to know the story, this is most of it. This is the abridged version, believe it or not. There are a lot more things, and if it comes to mind, I will tell anybody anything. I'm an open book. I will tell you things that you probably don't want to know if you start talking to me. I try my best not to lie. I am very, very forward to the point to where I am brutally honest. What do you think about that, Tim? It kind of looked like you weren't doing very good. Like, what's going on there? Like, what do you mean? That was my best pass ever. Oh, dude, I'm sorry, man. Like, my social skills are, yeah. Homeschool jungle freak. Yeah, it sums it all up. I was homeschooled. End of story. All right, see you later. But Kayla was homeschooled too. So if you're wondering why we're so weird, that's something to do with it. But anyways, I just wanted to, for me too, because I look back at my YouTube stuff just to kind of landmarks. And if you are curious about any of this stuff as far as the validity of it, go look. Almost all of it's documented. So I'm not just telling you stories. I have physical proof of these things, which helps me too, because sometimes we just forget stuff. But anyways, I will leave that off, or I'm going to get off here because it's been a long time. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't think he's done. And I think we've got some cool stuff coming up. We are budget limited, so we can only do what we can do, but whatever he wants, we're going to try to do. So we'll see how it goes. Anywho, that's all I got. Just remember, stay on the bright side and go Team Jesus.
Go team.
Go team.